good. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, Cornel. I see that Maureen Flinthart, an activist and a winner of the SCLC's Evelyn Wasserstrom Award several years ago. I apologize to everyone about the delay in getting in. Have you called the roll, Tex? Is everybody here?
We've got 52 people here. I think we're free to go. Okay.
Tonight we're going to lay the parameters of the seminar that will go through March, and I want to thank my friend and my brother and my colleague in the struggle, Tex Sample, for inviting me to do this. I want to begin with a little history lesson, if that's all right. And then I will go into the outline of the seminar, and then receive any questions, I assume, Tex. I don't know if somebody can have the questions and relay them on. And then we will go home and think on these things.
Sam, one quick thing, just to let everybody know that this session is being recorded, okay?
Okay, that's a very good thing. That's a very good thing, because some of our future speakers, Mickey Dean and Kamm Howard would like to see the tapes, and I'm sure Cornel would as well. What I hope to accomplish in this month-long seminar is not just some understanding of what the reframing the dialogue of race is, but to enlist the Trinity congregation and others, any others that want to be, into an action. And the action would be to support a local organization, Mickey Dean's organization, the National Black United Front, to support the project for reparations in Kansas City. And as we move along, you'll hear more about that, and you'll certainly hear more about that when we get to the end in March. Reframing the dialogue on race in America began back in the 1996, 97, and it came out of an effort we had going with the National Council of Churches. And when I say we, I mean the Reverend Mac Charles Jones, myself, the Reverend John Mendez, and others in a national hookup, a layman by the name of Gaylord Thomas, a Lutheran layman. We responded to the burning of Black churches. I don't know if you remember that, but there was a rash of burning of Black churches, and ultimately it was discovered that the perpetrators were all young white men in their late teens and early to mid 20s. And we responded to that through the National Council of Churches. At that time, Mac Charles Jones was a deputy general secretary of the National Council of Churches, and he called us together and said, we need to make a response to the burning of Black churches. And so our response was to create this organization called Reframing the Dialogue on Race. Racism actually was the first name of it, but it's been changed since then to Reframing the Dialogue on Race in America. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, basically, what I like to talk about in this is exemplified by a French philosopher by the name of Diderot. And he has a philosophy called deconstruction. Now, what it means, deconstruction, is usually used in literary circles to discover the meaning of the words in the literature. Well, we began to look at the struggle that was going on for what we might call integration as a solution to the issue of race in America. You understand what I'm trying to say? That integration was the solution, that it was what we should do is bring more Black people into the white culture. But if you apply the philosophy of the system of Diderot to the American Constitution and the American Declaration of Independence, the words come up wanting. Now, the words say one thing, but the actions did another. And so we began to address the issue of white supremacy in America and the efforts to integrate the cultural and social institutions of America this way. Rather than make everybody a part of it, we said, no, the institutions are corrupt. The institutions are corrupt. When you read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, it says all men are created equal. Do you hear me? I'm used to some feedback.
I hear you, Reverend Mann.
All men are created equal. Well, that's not true. What it really meant when you read into the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, you find that really the only people who could vote were white landowning men. You see the difference in the wording? All men are created equal, and the only people that could vote were white landowning men. If you were a woman, you could forget it. If you were Black, as they say, you had to get back. Native people couldn't even consider it. And so what you've got is you've got a corrupt culture at the beginning. Then you just move on down in the history of this nation and you find the 3/5 compromise, and all of a sudden what you've got is white landowning men exercising their rights and calling themselves free. You understand what I'm trying to say? We thought the best thing to do about reframing the dialogue is not the integration of people of color and women and working class white men into the culture. We thought the thing to do is to change the culture. Okay, I'm gonna just rest there a minute. To change the culture, because to review the history of white supremacy in America and the efforts to integrate the cultural and social institutions of America weren't getting the job done. Do you understand? Am I making sense? Well, so what did we do to change the culture? Let me stop there just a minute. Is everybody on board with me here? At least in understanding?
Yes, Pastor Mann.
Okay.
Loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. So how do we go about the business rather than trying to get Black folks and women and working class white men even in the culture? How do we go about getting America changed? Well, we decided to go to start in another way. And so we came up with these 4 or 5 points. I hope I'm making sense. I don't even feel like I'm making sense to myself right now. The first thing to do was to rewrite the history of America, to include stories that have been omitted, but also to tell about the place of white supremacy and the attending violence in America's founding monuments and documents. That's going on right now, as we know. Am I right or wrong? The second thing, the second thing was to bring the issue of race and white supremacy into the therapeutic setting of counseling. If a Black person goes to counseling, one of the first things that happens is that you begin to talk about the effect of being Black in America, what that had on your personality. White people never talk about being white in America as having an effect on their personality. So we said what needs to happen is that we need to bring the issue of race and white supremacy into the therapeutic setting to examine white supremacy as a defining spirit of the white personality. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and the fourth thing, I think it's the fourth thing, was to deal with the issue of reparations. Now, everybody knows what reparations is: to repair the damage done. And what we are going to do at the end of this is to try to enlist everyone to come and be a part of an effort in Kansas City to reframe, to deal with reparations, to repair all the damage that's been done by racism and white supremacy in America. To frame a dialogue on reparations as a condition for racial reconciliation. So we want to rewrite the history. We want to quit trying to integrate into a corrupt culture, to bring the issue of race and white supremacy into the therapeutic setting for white people. Now, the interesting thing about this is when Mac Jones and I started out with this thing, we had it in two facets. One was reframing the dialogue for people of color, and the other was reframing the dialogue for white people. And it's interesting that the framing or that reminds me, I need to say one other thing to you. When I'm talking framing, I'm not talking the picture frame, like around the little ornate thing around the picture frame. Framing has to do with the foundation. Framing has to do with the way what the house is built on. So when I'm talking framing and reframing, that all of that getting on the Zoom got me off track here. When I'm talking framing and reframing, we're talking about building a new foundation for dialogue and for relationships on reframing the dialogue on race in America. We're not talking about putting a new frame on it. Am I clear? Hello?
Yes.
Is anybody there?
Yes.
Amen. Amen. Amen, Doc. Amen.
Somebody say
amen, Reverend Mann.
Yes, amen.
I'll say shut up, one or the other.
Carry on.
But okay,
Carry
so
on.
It's to build a new frame. Y'all got me there. And to build a community of support and dialogue for those committed to reframing the dialogue on race in America. Now, the first conference sponsored by the National Council of Churches and sponsored to begin to roll this out, to reframe the dialogue on race in America, was held right here in Kansas City, Missouri. Say amen.
Amen.
Right here in Kansas City, Missouri,
Amen.
in November of 1997. And if I'm not mistaken, the pastor of Trinity United Methodist Church was instrumental in getting us to house it there, and even might have attended a few of the sessions. Am I right or wrong?
Dude, do you remember the name?
Yeah, text sample.
No. Oh, you mean, I wasn't pastor of Trinity then.
No. You were instrumental in helping us get the conference there. You and your cohort in crime, Paul Jones.
Paul Jones, yes.
And I think you actually came through a few sessions there. We brought in about 20 young white pastors from across the nation and began to deal with this reframing the dialogue on race in America. We were trying to build these cadres within the white church. Now, get me there, the white church. Now, what did we want them to do? One was to recognize the failure of integration, inclusivity, and diversity as effective responses to racism. That was one of the first things we wanted to do. To the failure of integration, inclusivity, and diversity as effective responses to racism. And that goes back to where I came in at. That is that what we have done is we're trying to make Black people come into a white culture. That don't work. The second thing we're trying to get this group of young white preachers to do is to rewrite history from other race, gender, and class perspectives. Now, Cornel is writing a book about this, and is going to bring that in the next session, rewriting history from another race, gender, and class perspective.
And anything and everything can be a clue.
What's that? Hello.
Good to
go there.
Yeah, you're still here.
Oh, okay. The third thing is the damaging effects of racism on white people and the therapy as a setting for healing this damage. Now, we're not going to deal with that one in the particular session at Trinity. And then the fourth one is reparations, addressing how to repair the harm done to people of color the last 3 generations. So basically what we have here is to reframe it is not to talk about equity and not to talk about integration, but to talk about the failure of integration, because it's always people of color coming into a sick society bounded on white history, white supremacy. And then the second thing is we're going to talk about rewriting the story of America. The thing is, there were some people already here. Am I right, Cornel? There were some people already here that the Europeans came in here and slaughtered and ran out in the Trail of Tears. Then the third thing we're going to talk about is reparations. And that's when we come into a project that we want to recruit folks to come and do a reparations project here in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay, I think that's all I want to do. Is that text? Is that clear, or should I? Or is there something I need to clean up?
Clear as a bell to me. I think if you want to, Sam, give people a chance to raise question or make comment.
Okay, anybody there? Who's going to coordinate this? I know I can't.
If you have a question, you can place it in the chat, or unmute yourself and ask a question, and we'll kind of feed through that one.
No questions?
Well, hang on a minute. They're thinking. I think you surprised them.
Reverend Mann, it's Deidre.
Hey, Deidre.
I guess
St. Mark's Child and Family Development Center, the greatest one in the United States.
Right. So, Reverend Mann, my question to you, where do people that are not practicing faith fit in? How do you engage them and enlist them?
You call them on the telephone and say, come on and go with us. I don't think there's any need for practicing faith. But this happened to come through the National Council of Churches, and it grew out of the burning of Black churches in America. And we were focused there, but any and all are welcome that are committed to the role of reframing the dialogue. And by reframing, of course, I don't mean picture frame. I mean foundation, walls, and everything to change the debate.
I think, let me reframe my question then. What are we going to do to get? What are we going to do to get the churches to go out to those that are not coming into their four walls? Because there is a need for the reframing to be much broader than just the church. Because when you think about young people, they're not going to church the way that those of us that have a little gray hair do.
Okay, well, that's a good question. And I can't deal with the church right now, but I do know this: the project we're going to propose at the end is the reframing project led by the National Black United Front here in Kansas City, and trying to get the Kansas City City Council to go like some other cities have gone, to actually have a program that adopts and that moves toward repairing the damage done to Black folks by racism and Kamm Howard will flesh this thing out in his presentation, but that would be certainly the way. We're non-sectarian in our efforts for reparations. You can come to the altar even if you ain't part of the church.
Love it.
Other comments, questions?
We have a question here in the chat. Where or in what ways may we become more aware or find examples of rewriting the American story? And where might we look to see the rewritten story making a difference?
Well, we've got one of our speakers, Brother Matt, next week, by the name of Cornel Pewewardy, a member of the Comanche Nation, who is going to be speaking next week, who's writing a book about the indigenous people's story, a history, which is entirely different. I'm glad you asked that question because it leads us right into next week. I'm glad you asked that question because Cornel is one of the authorities. He has led nationally. He has led the effort to do away with the mascots, which Kansas City is not a very good example, to do away with the holy relics and the mascots on professional and athletic teams. So did I answer the question?
Hello, Matt. Matt, this is Cornel. I just wanted to share with you probably the scholarship that I follow are mostly those that come out of colleges of liberal arts and sciences. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz wrote a award-winning book called The Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States. So it really tells the story about the history from a Native lens. And so when I talk next time, it's called rewriting, meaning REWRITING, rewriting history. And the foundation for that, it comes out of Tinker's book, George Tinker. You probably already have this one here. It's Missionary Conquest. And it's quite dated, but it still talks about more the papal bulls and the religion that had come, you know, at the turn of the century. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And also her latest book is let me see, not a Nation of Immigrants, Settler Colonialism, White Supremacy, and the History of Eraser and Exclusion. So that's another book by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. So that's kind of the scholarship that I follow, and it's what I teach at the various universities, even in my retirement. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And if you have any questions, I could put my email in the chat box so we can continue a dialogue. Thank you, Matt.
Let's write down. Was that it? Wait.
I'll ask it. Is there another question?
Yes, Sam. This is Dallas. What happened to the Reframing Dialogue group since 1997?
Well, we held 5 conferences, 3 of which were in Kansas City, and 2 of which were in Birmingham, Alabama, of all places. And one at my college and one in a church. Unfortunately, our intent was to build a community, and it never got done. Cornel was a part of the conferences that we would hold, and that's a very good question. And I think what we wound up doing was raising some consciousness. Hopefully, that's a part of the raised consciousness today that's happening in groups like Black Lives Matter and those kinds of efforts taking place.
So when we're looking at, when you're talking about it at this time, what is it different from 1997? What you're trying to do?
I think probably it's the intensity is different. I think probably the understanding is different. It's a good question, and to be honest with you, I don't really know the answer to it. Other than to say those kinds of things. We may have in agricultural terms, we may have a more fertile ground now. For example, we have a project on reparations already in existence, happening through the Black United Front here in Kansas City, and going through City Hall, the City Council, and it's happening in several cities around the nation. The racial consciousness has gotten a shot in the arm, I think, lately, and this is a part of it. I mean, we're holding this conference now. We didn't build the community that we wanted. You're right about that, and that was unfortunate. Partially because the founder, Dr. Mac Charles Jones, passed away. We lost him, and that was a very unfortunate thing. He was the heir apparent to the National Council of Churches, and he passed away on a trip to Houston, Texas, and it shocked us. I mean, it shocked us, and it set. He was the spirit behind so much of this, and it shocked us really. I still ain't really felt finished feeling all of that. But the movement for reframing the dialogue. Thanks to Trinity United Methodist Churches, they be trying to gin it up back here, and I know that with the Black United Front going and bringing the reparations and a big time before the city council is another way. So get ready for that.
Okay.
Get ready for that. Are you from Kansas City, Missouri, or?
I'm a member of Trinity.
Uh-huh.
No, I live in
Kansas City, Missouri.
I live in Fairway.
Okay, well, you got some feet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have another question from the chat asking, can you give us an idea of what reframing that you have done, Sam?
Me? I'm a living, walking, talking, reframing spirit. Much of it has been organizing. Much of it has been, demonstrating those kinds of things. I don't know exactly. My whole life has been a life to reframe. Maybe they could be a little more specific. You name it, and I've been there and done that.
Sam, let me pose the question to you this way. You've done a lot of work in terms of citizens initiatives, and I wonder if you might speak to that as an ingredient of this reframing.
Citizens initiatives.
At the state level, but like the 1/8 cent sales tax.
Oh yeah, the 1/8 cent sales tax was. The 1/8 cent sales tax was an idea that several of us came up with, including Tex Sample. He was on that. You were on that petition, weren't you, Tex?
Yeah, but that wasn't my point. Talk about it, Sammy.
Well, the 1/8 cent sales tax was an attempt to raise some money to renovate the inner city, so the place where Black folks were being in bad living conditions, unemployment, the whole no services, and this was an attempt. Now, unfortunately, once it got into the city hall, it got lost, and we're still having to wrestle with that. Housing, those kinds of projects we've tried to put together. I can't think of anything. I mean, it's like every day I get up, I'm trying to reframe it and certainly make sure that folks don't, it's a lifestyle, I guess is what it is. I don't know, Tex, am I making any sense or?
I think so. Sam, you've said to me so many times how important you think it is to go to work with citizens initiatives because of the kind of state legislature that we have that is so out of touch with where the majority of the voters are. Things like the minimum wage, and as we said, the 1/8 cent sales tax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, the minimum wage. You know, in the state of Missouri, we have done 1/8 cent sales tax, the minimum wage, and the Medicare, Medicaid. All three of those things grew out of the civil rights movement, trying to make a stand to reframe the dialogue. I mean, do you know that the civil rights community and the religious community passed all three of those things statewide and localwise? And I'm of the opinion that if we got behind, if the civil rights community and the church religious community got together with the progressive liberal politics, that we could get a progressive in the Senate seat of the state of Missouri. I'm convinced of that. I believe that because the Lord told me that. so I think it's those kinds of things, I guess, that Tex is talking about that seem just common, ordinary to every day to me, that we just do. I mean, you know, there were about 30 or 40 preachers that went to shut down the Senate, and we shut down the Senate on Medicare, Medicaid. We got it done. We got it done. So that would be 2 or 3 examples.
My brother, Al Brooks here.
Hey, Alvin.
Yes, sir. Let me ask a question. In order for us to reframe the dialogue, don't we have to first set the foundation that this nation of ours never intended for the descendants of slaves to have full access to the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that's mentioned in the Declaration of Independence? Do we not have to recognize that as a given?
I think you're absolutely correct, Alvin Brooks, great warrior and reframer. I think you're absolutely right. The only thing I would say would be a little different. Not only did they not intend for Black folks not to be on the foundation, and you're absolutely right, this notion of foundation, the only thing they said, the foundation was white-based. That's what they said. That they said it that way rather than the Black folks ain't gonna be a part of the foundation.
Let me take it one step further, if you don't mind. Now, once we recognize the fact, or agree upon the fact, that the descendants of slaves were never intended to be an equal basis with white citizens, even here in the 21st century, 2022, that should we not realize that Black folk, the descendants of slaves, cannot solve this issue without white folks, white Americans, Christians, stepping forward and understanding what the history is and how it is represented in the present. Because African Americans represent 13 or 14 of the nation's population of some 330 million people. We don't have the power to change it. We don't have the power to change. We have the economic power, the political power to change it. So it means that our white brothers and sisters, Christian brothers and sisters, are going to have to step up. And although they can't walk in the shoes of those of us who are the descendants of of slaves. But they can become educated enough to the point that if we're not present, tell the story based on the relationships that they've developed with African Americans, as well as reading some of the history. And it's saying to me that that's a foundation, Sam, where you want to go, and what you're proposing here this evening. That's the foundation. What's causing us to even talk about this is what ain't happening today.
Well, the only thing I would say, Alvin, what happened in Georgia? It was Black women that led that. I think the voice can be done almost without white people. I mean, I think white people need to be a part of it because they ain't right. But you look what happened in Georgia. You look what happened. Look, Joseph Biden is president because of a Black man. Am I right or wrong?
We don't have the power. We can isolate little incidents. You know, Black folks have elected 4 presidents. But we have not had any more power to make substantial changes. The 15th Amendment, 1865, gave former slaves the right to vote. And in 2022, this Congress will not pass the John Lewis Voting Act. All I'm saying is that our white brothers and sisters have got to step up. We can support them and tell them and educate them as to what the issues are, and feel our pain, our anguish, and all of that. But they've got the power. They've got the political power and economic power. They've got the media. And all of that plays into what America is. And we don't have the power in any of it. There are 614 billionaires, 7 are Black. There are more African billionaires in America than there are African American billionaires. And even if all of them pulled out, the Dow Jones averages or NASDAQ or SNL won't move 1 iota. A lot I'm saying is that and I understand, and it's great to move in this direction of reframing the whole discussion and the movement. But do you not have to deal with the basis for that first? In addition, not first, but in addition to that. And I wish we could.
Alvin, there wasn't no white people here when Columbus came. There wasn't no white people here. That's why the Native Americans said, because Columbus thought Columbus got lost and Native Americans found him. He thought it was in the West Indies. I know it.
And I imagine when they saw those ships, they said, "Oh my God, here goes our neighborhoods." Okay. And they were right.
Well, I don't know if I I know one thing: white people can't fix it.
You know, one of the things about power that strikes me, and if you'd respond to this, Sam, minorities can have a lot of influence through what's called the tipping function. That is where votes are close. Those minorities can tip it one way or the other. And I'm sure that that's been used by the Black community, but I wonder if we're not in a time now where we really need that, with greater vote turnout, for example, and able to move an election one way rather than the other. Would you speak to that?
Well, I think that's what happened in Georgia, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia surprised even Georgia. And I think we can do that. I think we can do that in Missouri. I really do. Nobody expected us to win Medicaid thing. Nobody expected us to win the $15 an hour thing. Yeah. Nobody expected that. But you know, black leadership. Sometimes I know not sometimes. I don't think white people can lead us out of this stuff. They don't know what to do. I think we've got to have black leadership taking us out, leading us out, not taking us out, leading us out. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Sure.
Yeah, but I do think to what Mr. Brooks is saying, though, the white people listen to white people. And if you are looking at the power imbalance without the alliance of Black leaders with white leaders that are willing to go together, what actionable change will we really make?
Well, you sent a senator to the Washington D.C. from Georgia, and sat a president down, I think. I'm not prepared to talk about black leadership because I'm obviously not the right. But I also know what black leadership does, and I think black leadership is the place where we find the greatest amount of understanding of where we need to go. Now, I don't want to be just totally wedded to that, because I know that there's some folks that can be wrong. But and that's one of the problems is white people won't follow black leadership.
Let me give you a further example. You know that Congressman Cleaver, there are 8 congressional representatives from the state of Missouri in the Congress. And there were 2 Democrats who were Cleaver and Cora Bass in St. Louis. Cleaver does not have a district. Do you know that we may end up on redistricting, not having but one? He's in trouble for not, because when he signed up the other week, the Secretary of State said, "What do you sign for?" He said, "The 5th district." Ain't no 5th district. So those, the power, and Sam, this is you're the presenter. For God's sake, forgive me. I don't want to say too much because you're my brother and my friend, and and you're the presenter, not me. But I'm just sharing with you the power, and what the gerrymandering has done is made Cleaver's 5th congressional district so large that it reaches to the conservative Republicans, and his chance of being reelected, even if they establish a 5th district, is very nil.
Okay, I agree. I agree that Reverend Cleaver's got a struggle on his hands over there, or we got a struggle on our hands over there.
Yes.
But I ain't talking about the House. I'm talking about the Senate. I'm talking about the Senate and that guy Hawley. That's I think we can take the Senate seat, not the House seat. We got a much better chance with Cleaver on the House, and I'm sending my money in, and we're working on that, and we're working on the redistricting thing. But the point is, and I think I heard some positive stuff coming out of there, but I'm talking about the Senate. I'm not talking about the House. I'm talking about that we have an opportunity, I think, to elect a black senator. That's what I think. Now, people say, but politics don't show that. Well, so what? We've done things before that were against the odds, up the stream, up the river. I say, let's go. And I think that I can't think of her name from St. Louis. I think it's possible that we can find a progressive, good voter, and pull that coalition together. Alvin, they didn't expect us to win the Medicare, Medicaid. They didn't expect that. Right to work. They didn't expect that. And what did it? The progressive white, the black, and the working class. That's who did it. I think we can do it. If we need to try, nothing beats a failure but a try. Am I right or wrong?
You're right in what you did, but what you did, you didn't change the system one iota.
Oh yes, we. Yes, we got.
No, when I'm talking about this, when I'm talking about the system, I'm talking about the American system.
Well, we can't argue with that.
No. And that's why I say I don't. I forgive me for. But I just had to share some thoughts about the foundation that must take place of recognizing as we move towards redefining, reframing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad it excited you, Alvin. Alvin, my brother. We go back so long, don't we?
In the process of reframing, where do you think is the best place to start?
Right here. Trinity United Methodist Church. And to go support and get the reparations done in Kansas City. That makes sense? Hello.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm going back and forth between some of the chat questions too.
What, you got questions?
Yeah, there's just a lot of comments, and so I'm deciding which are questions and which ones are comments. What might be like a policy? Like, what do you have a particular policy in mind that you would suggest advocating for? That would maybe be like a national policy, as well as maybe a local one. Do you know of?
Yeah, to pass the reparations bill, and that's in the Congress now. John Conyers set that thing loose a long time ago.
You know, Sam, I see Miss Patricia Jones Macklin in the crowd.
Hello, Miss Pat.
I wonder if she'd want to speak to the issue of possibilities with labor and the Black community and other people of color, of course.
I'll be right back.
I'm sorry, I stepped away. I heard my name being mentioned.
Yes, Ms. Macklin, this is Tech Sample. I was just saying to Sam that might be helpful if you could speak to the role of labor and people of color in the Black community in terms of these issues. I mean, who do we have who's had more experience in that regard than you, you know?
Well, there are people who've had more experience in this than me, for sure. But, you know, I don't know if labor even sometimes knows their worth. And when I say that, I'll give an example. I was at, and I'm a little under the weather, you all, so just kind of bear with me. I was at the Labor Council meeting last night, and I kind of looked around. I was the only Black woman there, and a lot of times I am, but I did address to them this whole thing. I talked about Congressman Cleaver's seat because what I don't think they understood. And I also talked about voter suppression, because they can help quite a bit, because a lot of them, they don't even live in Kansas City. They live in some of those places where the people that are elected are, in fact, holding us down. But I don't think they realize that they could make a difference there, because I told them, I said, now you all live in places where some of these people, some of these senators who are wanting to redraw the line in the congressional district, I said, you all can reach out. You all can write letters. You all can make calls. You give these people money. I don't think sometimes they connect the dots, and then you have to make them understand it, because they don't connect the dots at all. We talked about voter rights last night. I said, now, I didn't hear anyone put voter suppression laws at the top of this legislative discussion that we're having. I said, but do you all realize that if people of color, if our votes are suppressed, I said, do you realize that the agenda that you bring forward, it won't work? I said, because a lot of the laws and a lot of the things and issues that the union wants to have supported, many times the people of color are the ones that also vote for it. So we have a lot of worth, but I don't think they think about it because they don't live in our world. They go where they live, and there's not a lot of people who look like me. Most of them don't live in the city, and I just don't think they connected. And that's one thing I have been trying to do in my quest. I retired, and I'll tell you guys, I was worn out with them when I used to go to the meetings as a delegate, because, you know, I was saying to myself, why am I beating myself up with them, trying to make them see the difference and make them see where they need to go and what they need to do. And when I got to the end of my rope, I told my husband, John, I said, I am not going back anymore. They don't hear me. But guess what? They heard me, because when I came back, they said, we want to ask you something. And I said, what? Would you consider helping us in the community? Would you be our labor community liaison? And I said, what? They said, yeah, we had some cards printed up already. They had cards already, Sam, man. I hadn't even said yes. They had printed up all that stuff. But what it said to me was they heard me, and they were beginning to listen, because they live in a different kind of world. When I say they, and then the things with the African-American leaders in the union, I'd say to them, you know, you have an obligation. You don't just go where you live. A lot of them don't live in the city, but you just don't go to your house and, you know, settle in and you're happy with the status quo. I said, you need to help make a difference. I shouldn't be the only one up here talking about the things that affect people of color. I said, I shouldn't be the only one. Mm-hmm. I really shouldn't be, because I have other, they're men though, they're African-American men, but nobody says anything. And so I just think and I hope I'm speaking to kind of what you wanted me to say, but I just think there was such a big gap. And I think it's educating and making people understand. Now, I didn't change everybody's mind. However, when I speak, they at least listen. They were having trouble in the community. And I think, Sam, I think you were in on that meeting when some people thought the firefighters were using me as a buffer, but they weren't. They were not moving. I suggested they come into that fire pit with y'all and just go on and talk, listen, and get the word out. I said, you can't run. You need to talk to the community about the issues they have with you. And so therefore, you know, they did come, and it wasn't peace in the valley, but guess what? Some changes are being made right now. The union I met with them last week. The firefighters called me up and asked me to come over there. And they said they had hired some group to try to help them with recruitment. The problem was they were recruiting the same people that looked like them. There were not any people of color really being recruited into the fire department. And so we talked about it, and we have some things going to bring them in the community. And Sam, if you remember, one of the biggest battles that went on was the fact that there were no people of color hardly being firefighters. You know, we didn't have any. And, you know, Gwen kind of wore on down on that one. But, you know, you got a problem, and I'll say this every time. You have a problem. Don't sit there talking about it. What are you going to do to solve it? So they want to try to get into the community, to get these young people to apply for the jobs. And, you know, you kind of have to have someone who will speak up. And right now, I just have the bigger mouth than everybody else. But I still say that the Black leadership within the union, they also should be making a difference because they got where they are, and that's fine. But don't get comfortable. Please don't, and I say that all the time, don't get comfortable because you have an obligation. And there's a high-ranking labor person now that wasn't doing much in the community, and I talk with him all the time. You have power, and you don't have to use power in a bad way. Use your power in a good way. You can make a difference. And I just think that, you know, as I said, labor is a hard, it's a hard rock there with some of those folk. But if we don't make them aware of what our community feels, the issues in our community, they'll keep going right back to what they're doing.
Think you could pull labor behind the reparations?
Probably not.
Well, I think we need to get them.
Probably not. Probably not. Okay. I don't know.
Sam and Tex, my brothers, and the rest of you, my brothers and sisters. I'm sorry, I have an 8 o'clock Zoom, so anyway, I can support the initiative. Although 2 months from 90, the mind is fairly, you know, as it was yesterday, and I'll do what I can in your efforts. So God bless you, everyone, and Mother and Father will tell us about their strength and power sometime tonight when there's 6 to 8 inches of snow falling. God bless you.
Oh Lord, thank you, thank you.
Great Prophet, Dr. Howard here. I wonder if I could just take a second to speak to some of your excellent points there. Great job tonight.
Thank
Great
you,
Prophet, are you there?
I are here.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for leading this entire conversation and for your kicking this off tonight. I thought it was extraordinary the way that you put this into historical context and how this whole piece of racial justice and the raising of the consciousness level of both Black people and white people in this country that planted the seeds that contributed to what we have experienced over the course of the last 10, 15 years, and even the last 3 or 4 years with Black consciousness. I did want to speak, Great Prophet, if I could, to your assertion that white people have problems following Black leadership. And it bears itself out even to the point where there are some people who believe that Black freedom can't come unless white people are involved. And I really do believe that we have to scratch that notion, because every Black movement for freedom and justice, the waves of liberation and emancipation have come by Black radicalism, Black theological perspective that believed in the power of God to liberate us, and Black movement on the ground from the grassroots. And it has been our moral mandate which has brought us the victory, not necessarily white involvement and engagement. Now, white involvement and engagement is important because of numbers. There is no question about that. We cannot deny that. But Black people have overcome in these trying times because our causes were right. And when your cause is right, there will be white people, there will be brown people, there will be people of all hue and all manner who come on board and support you. And so the numbers in terms of the majority in this country, there's no question that it's white. What has been the key to our liberation is Black radical movement, Black progressivism, and Black people being fed up with our condition. And it was not white people that said it's time for reparations. It was Black people, and white people are coming on board. It was not white people that said it's time for a Black senator in Georgia. It was Black people. It was not Abraham Lincoln. It was Harriet Tubman. It was Sojourner Truth. And so there will always be that white configuration that we need in the leveraging of power. But let us not get it twisted. It starts with Black people saying enough is enough. And that is one of the reasons why I think the speakers from now on, the rest of the Wednesdays are so powerful. And I think this is powerful because it raises the level of white consciousness that racial justice is important and that white people need to get on board. So thank you, Great Prophet, for what you're doing and your leadership. And thank you for giving me a couple of moments.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. I was thinking that, beg your pardon?
I was going to say, we have one more question here in the chat that I think is a good question to ask. What are some specific ways that white leaders can effectively reframe how they communicate about race and equality?
What are some effective ways white people can?
What are some specific ways white leaders can effectively reframe how they communicate about race and equity?
Well, I think we've got a list tonight. I mean, the reparations bill that the Black United Front is going to is supporting and is organizing the city around. Get involved in that. Help that happen. Help that happen. Yeah, I remember Mickey Dean, not Mickey Dean. When Dr. Howard was talking, I remember there were some white folks that helped the Underground Railroad, wasn't there? I remember some of that. And take Black leadership. Don't be afraid of Black leadership. Follow Black folks. Yeah. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Amen. Yes, absolutely.
Get on board.
You know, what occurs to me as we were talking there early on, sometimes, and I've been a Democrat all my life. I've been a Democrat all my life, and I've probably registered more people to vote Democratic than most people have. I've been out walking the streets registering, but you know, sometimes the Democratic Party has betrayed us. I don't say all the time, but sometimes, and sometimes it's like maybe there's a coalition trying to emerge that's not wedded just strictly to a Democratic platform. It's probably going to get me in a lot of trouble, but
Amen.
I don't mind good trouble. The Democratic Party, as somebody said, amen, so y'all moved me on. One of the thoughts I had was that the Democratic Party ain't our only tent. I mean, we could put up our own tent, because I don't know. I better watch myself here. I mean, amen. Brother Tex, am I by myself?
No. I'm here. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I do a pretty heavy critique of the Democratic Party myself, not to speak of what I say about Republicans, and they've got a bunch of people in that party now that the best word for me is they're just crazy.
Amen, amen.
They're just crazy. And I think until I don't know, maybe something will happen on the national or international scene that can bring some folks back to reality, because there's a schizoid separation of a fairly large number of people in our society today who simply don't pay attention to what actually goes on. Sam, you know, I want so much to see white working class folks and people of color, especially Black folk, because they're so often close together. I so want to see the kind of coalitions that, to me, the self-interest of people of color and working folks in this country are so close on everything. Well, maybe not everything, but so much that just is of first importance. And, you know, I've spent about 55 years working with white folk and playing with them and everything else. And I just see so much opportunity there. That's why I look to Ms. Macklin, because of her experience in the labor community. We just, I don't know, in my very limited view, and I just think that's a direction that really needs some work. And I think that's one of the answers. But I know the bad history there's been with the labor movement and race. But I just wish the labor movement would look at the bad shape that they're in, how labor participates. It is showing some improvement, but how it's gone down over the last 40 years.
Well, you know, working class white men were left out of the voting.
Of course.
They were written out.
And,
but yet they come along. You know, I remember the book by W.J. Cash, The Mind of the South.
Yes.
Where he draws out this thing where the landowner got the working class white man to come side with him against the Black folks.
Yeah, and you know, W.E.B. Du Bois said this very similar things in his great work. And I don't know, Sam, you know, I'm committed to the Black community, and I spend a good deal of my time there, and I'll go to jail over it. And I really wish there were some way to put some coalitions together of people who share so much, and the racism is typically the reason it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Rev, can I say something for a moment? You know, labor has a very steep in civil rights, but most labor people don't know it, and a lot of people don't know it. I mean, they don't know, you know, during the boycotts, and you know it, during the boycotts, where was it? I'm so tired and sleepy, but during the boycotts,
Memphis.
Memphis, when they weren't riding the buses, when they weren't doing things like that, labor stepped in, provided money for the civil rights movement. And I know for a fact, the UAW, I talk to them all the time about this because sometimes they don't know their history. When Dr. King went to jail, he couldn't pay his bond. However, the head of the UAW paid his bond to get him out. So they have history, they just don't know it. And that's what I get up and talk about a lot to them, that you have a natural bond here. You all have worked in the movement. You just don't know your history, and UAW has a very strong history when it comes to civil rights and when it comes to, you know, just opportunities. I mean, they really do. And their own workers don't know it. So it's always a teaching thing with me when I'm talking to them, because they realize they can't make it by themselves. And I keep telling them, I say, you know, y'all can sit here and talk union all you want to, but when it comes to trying to pass some of the things you want, y'all need the community. You can't do it by yourself.
That's right.
And they can't. But you have to make people aware. You have to keep educating them about what's there, because I don't think they think about it. It's the tunnel vision, and it's not working.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Let me say too, Ms. Macklin. And Sam, we're at that time of 8 o'clock, 8:01. Do you have a final word for us before we close? We try to start on time and close on time. Sorry about the problem we had earlier tonight, but we'll work on that and get it straight by next time.
Well, I don't travel well in cyberspace. But no, I thank you so much, Trinity, for putting this together. And we look forward to Cornel Pewewardy, who will speak next week. His brother's been on the field, in the streets for many years, and we look forward to. I'm glad he was here tonight, and I'll be talking with him next week, and as he comes forward. He was a part of the original group that built the conferences and did the Reframing the Dialogue. I think we laid a good foundation tonight, and thank you, Trinity, for inviting us in.
Well, thank you, Reverend Mann, and we do look forward to Brother Cornel next week. So.
Amen.
With that said, folks, we'll say good night. Go in peace.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Good night.